Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So I'm working some more on the lighthouse. Got most of the tower done, but I'm going to do a bit more work on it. It looks like I haven't done much since last time, but I filled in pretty much all of the bottom of the pass there and moved the frame for the first few columns. So yeah, we got like the first 60 stitches in is done. So I was working more on the bottom of the pass for the last few days, and now we're back up to the top again to work on the lighthouse. So still no snow. The forecast says we're in for a tiny dusting on Christmas Day, so it may technically be a white Christmas, but not the kind that we're used to. Yeah, we're used to the snow being at least a foot deep by now, sometimes more. So I'll just move some of this cloth on the back out of my way. I just moved the frame and put this back into my floor stand, so sometimes it takes a little adjusting to get everything just right. So yeah, I was saying that I should hit 80,000 completed before the end of the month, and yeah, we are past that now, so no prob. Not making any more predictions though. Yeah, so we got some gifts from my father-in-law, and the ones for our kiddo were not wrapped, so I'm gonna have to quickly do that before the end of the day. Get those under the tree. Ooh, oh, pardon me. All right. Yeah, it's blue sky out there, and it's just below freezing. You would think it was September or October, definitely not December. End of December. Yeah, the only thing predictable about our weather is it's unpredictable. Yeah, I remember when my sister-in-law came out and she stayed with us for a year while she was getting herself self-established, and you know, I said, oh, I hope you're in for, you know, ready for one of the real winters here, not like they have back in, you know, where she came from the Fraser Valley, which is where we were from too. And then of course that year it was actually super mild, so I said, oh, you brought the mild weather with you. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot here. Those, yeah, there. These paler colors, sometimes I find it can be harder to tell. They kind of blend into the white fabric there, and it's, yeah, more difficult to see. Yeah, when I used to stitch cross country by page, and I often would start with the lightest colors so that there wouldn't be any of the threads showing through from carrying stitches and stuff. And sometimes if there was a ton of white on the page, I'd say, yeah, it looked like I did nothing. Because, yeah, you backed up even a few inches, you couldn't see it anymore. Yeah, when I was stitching my lighthouse, there was a page where I was stitching sort of the top curl of the wave coming in on the tide, and it was all white and these super pale blues. And yeah, so it took like a week of work before you could really even see anything unless you had your, you know, your nose up right up to the the cloth there. Ugh. Rats. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to believe another year has gone by. This year went fast for me. Yeah, I hope everyone's got some good plans for the holidays. Hope you get to spend it with people you love and have some time off work to take it easy. I know not all of us are that lucky. And have some good food. Okay, 775. Yeah, I remember my mom saying before she met my dad, she was studying to be a nurse, and if you worked Christmas Day, you got double and a half time. So, yeah. She said 1 year she didn't have to work Christmas Day. She often volunteered because she didn't have anywhere to go anyway, so might as well, make that that nice overtime. But she said, yeah, 1 year she didn't get scheduled, and she slept through the whole Christmas anyway. Yeah, she went to bed on Christmas Eve and slept almost until basically until Boxing Day. So yeah. Yeah, so working here, and after a couple, like 2.5 columns, we'll be back into the peacock's chest again. Some really nice, bright, vibrant colors. My favorite out of this whole piece. And yeah, like I said, that part should go fairly quickly because there's only about 4 colors on his chest. So yeah, big block stitch up really fast. And then we'll get into his wings, and then we'll finally get into the first of his tail feathers. Yay! Looking forward to, we're enjoying the fact that kiddo's on break. Because, yeah, it means I don't have to get up to get him up. Yeah, I am a night owl. Always have been. Yeah, my husband and son are too, so when we all have a day off, pretty much nobody gets up before 10. Yeah, saying like lockdown definitely sucked for a lot of reasons, but yeah, I have to enjoy the fact that we could follow our more natural sleep schedule, because the rest of that school year, basically they said, was whatever grade you had when things went into lockdown, you would have, or you could improve before the end of the school year, but you wouldn't lose it. And so they had Zoom classes and stuff sometimes, but they were later in the day, and yeah, kiddos could submit homework online through the Google Classroom whenever. It was funny because I remember my son was attending one of the Google classes, and one of the teachers says, my gosh, some of you guys are handing your assignments at 4 a.m. Like, go to bed, But, yeah. Yeah, and I remember after the first couple of weeks of lockdown, I did the laundry and my kids was all pajamas. Mm. Yeah, it was kind of weird at first, though, because my husband was able to work remotely for a lot of stuff. And so it was weird having everybody home every day, all day, because I was used to, son going to school, my husband going to work, and me being alone in the house for a few hours. And then, yeah, they were there all the time. It was a bit of an adjustment. Not that I minded. Yeah, I remember thinking to myself, I'm lucky that we're a happy family. Yeah, everyone gets along, because, yeah, for some people it was definitely a lot more stressful. So I know I was definitely very, very fortunate. Plus, I'm an introvert, so yeah. I said I felt bad for extroverts. They must have been climbing the walls because, yeah. For me, I'm a hibernator. I am totally fine with not leaving my house for days at a time if I don't have to. Yeah, there was a meme I saw that was funny saying, when people say go big or go home, they don't realize that's not a threat. I'd like to go home. All right, so I think I'm going to stitch to maybe this column here and sort of cut it off there and fill in. We'll sort of, like I said, see as I go. I don't always plan that far ahead. Yeah, if I go into move mode, you can see when I get over here into the peacock's chest, yeah, it's lots of one color and then a few others, so that is going to go by really quickly. So yeah, 2.5 columns and I will be getting into the peacock's chest again. But that will probably be next month. Yeah, thinking I'm probably going to stitch sort of up to and around it for the rest of this month and probably part of January. And then we will get into, yeah. So I'm not sure when we're going to reach his tail feathers. I'm not going to make any hard predictions. I'm just going to say it's going to be at least a couple of months, I should think. But it's not really a goal. That's just me saying that's probably how long it's going to take. And if I get there sooner, then bonus. Yeah, so I met my reading goal. Book a week, 52 books. So, yay. I made it before the end of the year. Might add a few more. I find I'm behind usually the entire year until I reach December, because in December I read Christmas stories and a lot of them are novellas. So that boosts my count fairly quickly. And there are a few I always reread. There are 4 novellas that I reread every year and some others that I sort of rotate. Another half a dozen that I sort of read every year or two. So, yeah. That's usually about 4 or 5 of them, at least, sometimes a bit more, that I can count on getting done in December, because they're like, 90, 100 pages, that kind of thing. So I can read one of them in a, hour and a half or so before bed. So. Yeah, I really like those anthologies because it gives me a chance to try authors that I may not have read before. A lot of times, yeah. I've discovered a few that I really liked that way. Some authors I find I'll really enjoy a shorter book of theirs, and then when there's a full-length novel, not as much. And yeah, and the opposite too. But most of the time, I find if I enjoy the author's voice in the shorter book, I'll often enjoy it in the longer book. And so yeah, I've discovered some of my favorites that way. Yeah, I reread a lot when I was a kid. Well, I didn't have access to as many books as we do now, right? Yeah. Like, sort of, I would read through the entire school's library, and then what was there to do but to just read through it again, kind of thing. Yeah, you know, now with ebooks, you've got more than you could access to more books you could ever read in a lifetime, and a lot of times you can get them for free or for, you know, not too expensive. And if you have a library card, you can borrow a lot of ebooks for free without ever leaving your house. So yeah, and they certainly have it set up for you to if you're reading a series, when you get to the end, it will, if you don't own the book, it'll bring up sort of a, hey, you want to buy the next book in the series? And it's like, yeah, I know they certainly catch me a few times with impulse buy of, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I will. Instant one-click buy, boom, there it is. I'm not a big series reader, though, I find. There's a few that I do, but most of the time I read books that are standalone, or ones that maybe the author has some crossover of characters, but each story, you don't have to read the previous books to understand other ones. So I like those. I don't mind series, but yeah, I'm not as into them as a lot of my friends are. That's all they read is big long book series. Yeah. One that kind of sucked, though, was there was one I read the first couple of books, and there was teased that there was going to be another book with one of the sort of background characters, one of the antagonists from one of the previous books, and she said it was coming out soon. Then I went to look for it, and she'd said that in 2015, and I guess she just never did it because she wrote other books since, and she never finished that one. It's like, oh, darn. Because I was really looking forward to, because it was one of those, they were, I won't say villain of the story, because they weren't really bad, but they did add, like, tension, you know. They were definitely, so they were the antagonist, and I was so looking forward to seeing how the author was going to redeem them in another book, and then it turns out they didn't write it, so I was like, I am sad. So I signed up for their email list that if they ever do, I will get notified when the book's coming out. But yeah, like I said, if it was supposed to come out in 2015, then I doubt it's still in the works if they've been publishing stuff since then. Yeah. Well, sometimes too, their publisher may decide that the series is not doing so well, and so they won't approve writing another one. Of course, nowadays with self-publishing, that's a little easier to get around. But yeah, I remember a lot in the 90s when an author, especially if they changed publishers, that publisher wasn't willing to finish the previous series because, well, they didn't have the rights to the first, 3 or 4 books or whatever. And so they didn't want to invest in finishing it, which, yeah, kind of sucked for the readers because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't really care what the imprint on the book is. I just care about the book itself, right? But yeah, it's all about money for them. So yeah. And I mean, I can't blame the writer if a different publisher gives them a better contract. Then yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for going elsewhere. So yeah, like I remember even some bigger names, like there was Brenda Joyce was writing a series and then wasn't able to finish the last book because the new publisher didn't want to take that on. I'm not sure if she ever did finish it since, you know, self-publishing became more of a thing. You know, it used to be they called it vanity press or whatever. And it was really only for, you know, if you were rich enough. But now it's a lot more available to everyone. So I know there's some authors who do both. They publish traditionally and then they also self-publish stuff if their traditional publisher does not want to do it. Yeah, they can do it themselves depending on their contract. So that's kind of nice. Or it's nice with Kindle because, yeah, now a lot of older out-of-print books that you couldn't get a hold of come out on Kindle, and you can get them for sometimes even free, which I was kind of sore about because there were some authors that I had spent money tracking down the out-of-print copies and paid a fair amount for them because most of the time they came from the US, so I often had to pay import fees, and our exchange rate with the Canadian dollar is generally not very good. It's not the worst, but it's not great either. So, of course, it cost me that as well. And if it's an out-of-print book, they can charge more for it, right? It may have been $8 when it first was printed, but they may charge $20, you know, because they know it's hard to get a hold of. And yeah, so. And then, yeah, it's like years later, it comes out free on Kindle's like, oh, rats. If I'd known, I would have just waited it out. I ended up getting it on Kindle, so I have a backup. But yeah, I couldn't make myself get rid of the print copies because it was like, but I spent $25 on this, and like, you know, it's unlikely that you would lose the e-copy, like that the server would be so badly, you know, the files would all get destroyed or whatever, but you never know, right? So yeah, I don't need the storage space that bad that I'm going to get rid of them. Although, yeah, I have been thinking I do need to go over my shelves and thin it out a bit. I have quite a few books that I kept that I know I am not going to read again. And some of them I look at it and it's like, man, I can't even remember this story at all. And so if it was that forgettable, yeah, I'm probably not going to reread it. And so, yeah. And like I said, I don't reread like I used to. When I was a kid, there was sometimes a book, if I liked it, I'd read it a dozen times a year, but yeah, I don't do that anymore. It has to be a really special book for me to read it again. Yeah, although someone said that's one thing is, because you never know, sometimes, like I've gone through reading slumps where I've tried book after book and, you know, it's 6 or 7 in a row that were just didn't keep my interest and I didn't finish them. And there's definitely something comforting about picking up a book that you know you loved and reading it and knowing that it's going to hit all those emotional notes that you want when you read a good book, right? Yeah. And somebody said too, it can help too if you have anxiety to reread an old favorite or rewatch an old favorite or show or whatever, because yeah, you already know that like your favorite character isn't going to die or something. Yeah. You already know it's going to work out in the end. So I may just cut it off, like I said, around this grid line here. And kind of continue filling in, we'll see. Or I may go to the next grid line there. There's kind of, yeah, because that's kind of right before where it changes into the peacock's chest and So I may sort of work out more horizontally and then continue. Sometimes I do that instead of working in diagonal strips. I end up working more outwards in more horizontal ones and downwards. So as long as I'm still, like I said, trying to grow out from the established edge there. Yeah, so I'm thinking, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll go up to about or just past this grid line here. Just seems kind of a place that makes sense to me. Okay. All right, I'm going to park this one down here. Yeah, I'll add another thread of that color when I need to. Okay, let's see how much of this color, 3840, not a ton, so I'm not going to bother putting it out of my tray yet. Yeah, it's starting to fill up with colors, so I gotta be more conservative with which colors I take out. Pulled out 2 strands, or 3 strands, I should say, rather than 2. Rather than a loop start, I'm going to do an away thread here. This one was only going to be long enough for these 3 here. Then I'll tie it off. Okay, I'm going to do one out of order here. Yeah. I could avoid it with a lot of, but it would take a lot of effort, so I am not going to bother. Yeah, may do a bit of, let's see what I've got for leftover bits here. Yeah, in fact, I might have, maybe should have parked the other one at the other end. So what I will probably do actually is I've changed my mind. I'm going to do, but that's okay. I'm going to do some crossing as I go. A little bit of skipping around a bit, not a lot. Okay, so do this one here. Park. That one came undone. Didn't realize it was that short. In fact, it's probably going to be just one stitch and be done with it here, yeah. Okay, let's start another one of that color. All right, so then, yeah, this one, I don't usually cross as I go, but I think I will because, yeah, it is longer and I want the thread to end up on the other side, so. Yeah, I really should have parked it at the other end there, but I kind of hadn't thought that far ahead, so no big deal. Okay, fill in a bit here too. Okay, I see. Go do that one first. So pretty soon I'll have filled in all the gaps. So I did that one stitch out of order. Oh, darn. There we are. There. So now that gap is all filled in. So yeah, I generally try not to leave gaps, and when I do, I try to fill it in as quickly as possible. So yeah, I didn't bother leaving any of these threaded because I knew I'm going to be working more sort of out towards the right for a while before I keep working downwards. So that was just what I planned. Yeah, I used to sort of follow my diagonal strips a little more closely, but now I follow the colors more. The diagonals are just a rough sort of guideline. There we go. Man, yeah, I had really bad luck with knots yesterday. It's really frustrating. I had about 6 or 7 of them over the course of the day. I don't know. And there were a couple of them that, yeah, they were so bad that I could not undo them no matter what I tried. I had to cut them out. Well, it got to the point there was one I was picking at it and it was so frayed and fuzzy that even if I had managed to get the knot apart, like that piece of the thread would have been, yeah, weak and, yeah, fuzzy, and I wouldn't have wanted to stitch with it anyway. So, yeah, at that point there was nothing to do but cut the thread and start it all over again. Which I wasn't thrilled about, but what you gonna do? Plus, yeah, even with holding it with tweezers so that I didn't distort the fabric, I was having to pull so hard on it, I was afraid I was going to end up distorting the fabric anyway, which I don't want, obviously. Yeah, sort of where this color ends is, I think, where I'm going to work up to, and then continue filling in downward before I come back up here again. I could sort of work sort of right up to the peacock's chest, but I think that's far enough. It sort of makes a natural break point there, so that is what I'm going to do. I probably won't get down to the bottom of this pass before the end of the month, I should think. We shall see. Yeah, it's pretty soon. It will be time to take this off of my frame and do my monthly update post. Those are some of my favorites. Yeah, sometimes it can feel like not making much progress, but then from one month to the next, yeah, you can really see it. Yeah, it's one of those, when you spread it all out and look at it too, it's kind of like, wow. It's like, even though I made it sometimes, yeah, I look at it, it's just like, wow, I can't believe I made that, you know? Even though I know it's just lots of little X's, lots of time, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, where this color ends is where I'm gonna make my break. Oh dear. I think it was a couple of Christmases ago. My Christmas present was a ton of cross-stitch floss. I went through and I made a spreadsheet of all the colors I needed, and then I bought everything over the course of a few months. So yeah, I took a picture of it as a big box of it, and then somebody said, oh, and I said, then part of my gift is I get to sort and organize this. Yeah, somebody said, oh, I was thinking the same, because yeah, I'm one of those people who likes to do that. Makes the little magpie brain happy. Yeah, I said sometimes when I was in a reading slump, I would go and reorganize my books on the shelves. That kind of gave me the little happy feeling I was chasing, but I didn't have the energy to actually read at the time. So yeah, I could sort of go on further with this color, but I got to cut it off somewhere, so it's sometimes a bit arbitrary. Take all of these threads here and just untangle it from these ones that I have still threaded. Yeah, set all of this aside for now. Like that. Oh, look at that. I've done 1, 2, 3. See how much of this color is out. A fair amount. So yeah, I'm going to take this one out. Oh, that was off. Oh, where did my scissors go? Oh, there they are. I was sitting on them. try to keep them in my lap, but sometimes they end up under my thigh. Ooh. Oh, actually, I'm going to do this one first. There we go. Did that so that I can do all those around the corner. Goodness, that one was being touchy. So yeah, filled this in, and then I'm going to go back over to the left, fill in again. So working more horizontal instead of vertical. That way I could sort of do this big section of color in one go rather than splitting it up into sort of two diagonal segments. Felt I would have to switch colors less that way, so it's a little bit quicker. Plug that, or unplug that, unthread that because it's going to be a bit till I get to it. So yeah, my last row, I was coming out from the left side out. Now I'm going to go and start my next thread and work from the right side in. I think that may be where I take a break for today. I will just finish off these two threads here, might as well, and then that will be a good place to stop for the day. Next, then I'm gonna go back over to the left again and work my way out. So yeah, like I say, not always diagonal, sometimes more diagonal-ish. depends a lot on the pattern. So. There we go. Set that aside as well. And yeah, did almost 200 today, just one shy. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. Like I said, I hope you have a nice time with loved ones and some time off and some good food. And yeah, I hope you will join me next time after Christmas. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.